How does digital currency work? Value is represented as a digital coin, and transactions related to that digital coin are stored and recorded in a distributed ledger system called the blockchain. Instead of being two distinct and separate systems, a currency controlled by a government or central bank and a payment system operated by a bank or a third party, a digital currency like Bitcoin or Leocoin contains both stored value and a transactional system in a single integrated and inextricable system. The coin is an integrated part of the payment system, and the payment system is an integrated part of the coin. This integrated system is called the blockchain, which is a technical name for the distributed ledger of all the transactions that have ever happened within the system. If you're wondering what a distributed ledger is, think about a giant Excel spreadsheet that is recording all the transactions that are happening with the digital currency. This is similar to how your bank statement works as a record of all the funds coming in and out, but with a few differences. In the traditional system, the record of transactions is maintained by the bank, and you can only see transactions related to your account or your money. With a digital currency, the fundamental difference is that instead of the record of transactions being private and maintained by a single private intermediary, the bank, and you only being able to see your transaction, with a digital currency, the ledger is public, and every computer or node, as they're called, that is connected to the network maintains its own complete and public copy of all the transactions. This is called the blockchain. Since the system is open and public, anyone who is able to connect to the network via the internet is able to retrieve a copy of the blockchain, and they're able to transact with anyone, anywhere else on the network, anywhere in the world, without having to go through a bank or other intermediary. In the blockchain, coins are the units being counted and recorded in the transactions. In order to transact on the blockchain, one must first acquire coins, either by buying them or by exchanging goods or services for them. In order to acquire coins, you must also have a way to store them, and we store them in a digital wallet. Your digital wallet contains addresses for you to receive coins at, and you give those addresses to anyone wishing to send you coins. When you receive coins in your wallet balance will show that amount. When someone sends you coins, their wallet will generate an encrypted message that's a transaction in the blockchain, and it effectively reassociates the coin that they own to the address that you provide them. Once the coin is associated to one of your addresses, you're free to transfer ownership of that coin should you wish to. It's worth pointing out that because of the way encryption works in the blockchain, each transaction should be done with a new address. Using the same address repeatedly can create serious technical issues in the blockchain, but in a vast majority of cases, your wallet is going to handle this issue for you. What is encryption? Now, a few moments ago, I mentioned an encrypted message that's used in the blockchain. The technical aspects behind this are covered in depth in the next course, the Certified Digital Currency Professional. But for this course, it's enough to understand that encryption is a process of storing and or securing information in a way so that only those who are authorized to view it are able to do so. This is done through a mathematical process that makes the information unreadable to humans, and it's only possible to make it readable or usable if you have the appropriate key or code to unlock or remove the encryption through a process called decryption. Where computers are concerned, encryption is commonly and routinely used to protect data and information and to verify the identity of one or more parties to a communication or transaction. Your mobile phone uses a lot of encryption to protect the data on it. Your bank uses encryption to protect the data that you exchange with it, and there's many other common everyday uses for encryption. Even your connection to the server that's hosting this video is encrypted. Encryption comes in a variety of strengths and can be accomplished using different processes. In the case of digital currency, we use a process called public key cryptography, or public key encryption. And digital currency's use of this type of encryption is what has led to many digital currencies being called cryptocurrencies. The term cryptocurrency is really just a buzzword for digital currency. Ultimately, the encryption contained in a digital currency is one of the underlying pillars that make a digital currency possible. So how does the entire transaction process work? Dan has 100 coins and he wants to send Geraldine 5 coins as a payment for some work. Assuming that Geraldine is able and willing to accept those coins, Dan can ask Geraldine for her address. At the technical level, the address is actually a public key and is part of the public key encryption process we spoke about just a few moments ago. Geraldine goes to her wallet, which generates a new address for her. The address is the public key, and for every public key, there's a corresponding private key that Geraldine's wallet maintains for her in the background. Geraldine gives Dan her address, and that's all Geraldine has to do to receive coins in her wallet. Now that Dan has Geraldine's address, he can go to his wallet and tell his wallet that he wants to send 5 coins to the address that Geraldine provided him. Dan's wallet, which is managing his coins, knows which coins are Dan's and generates the transaction message that tells the network in technical terms something along the lines of coin 123456789, which is at address 8WB6F484GHU76, now belongs to address 1452WFH656455. Dan's wallet signs the transaction with his signature. Dan's wallet will now broadcast the transaction to all the other nodes on the network and tell them to update their copy of the blockchain, that distributed ledger of transactions, with this new transaction. Each node or computer system that is connected to the network will receive the transaction and attempt to verify it through the hashing process, also known as the mining process. When enough nodes have successfully hashed and verified the transaction will become a permanent part of the blockchain. And that's it. Simple, right? The truth is that this is actually an extremely complex process that's handled by computers. In this course, we're looking at it from a very high-level simplified perspective, but in the CDCP course, we dive deep into the technical aspects. It's taken us a few minutes to understand how a transaction happens, but in a real-world setting, all this happens in a blink of an eye. If your wallet has a mobile app, you might even be able to open an app and simply scan a barcode that the recipient is showing you, and like magic, that entire transaction process will happen instantly. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, can't anyone just connect to the network and broadcast a transaction? How do we know that a transaction is legitimate? It's a great question, and this is where the process commonly known as mining comes in. When a new message is broadcast, it contains both the originating address and Dan's signature. At a high level, that signature is part of the encryption process that proves that someone has the private key associated with a public key without having to actually show that private key. This is done through a mathematical process called hashing, more commonly called mining. The transaction message and signature are dependent on one another. The signature depends on the message and is unique for every transaction. It's interesting to point out that the signature also adds a significant layer of security to the system. Because of the uniqueness of the signature and the interdependence of the signature and the message, no one is able to modify the message. If someone attempts to modify the message, the signature would become invalid and vice versa. If the signature is invalid, the nodes on the network would reject the transaction, as there'd be no way to verify the signature against the message. It's this network power that makes it infeasible, although in theory not impossible, to hack the blockchain. If a transaction is broadcast and it can't be verified because the signatures and the messages don't match, the nodes on the network will reject the transaction. In order for someone to insert an illegitimate transaction into the blockchain, they would have to convince a majority of nodes on the network that the false transaction was actually legitimate. To do that, they would have to somehow compromise all the nodes at the same time to get them to accept the illegitimate transaction. Since there's literally thousands of nodes, it would be very unlikely that a bad actor would be able to compromise all of these nodes at the same time in order to insert the bad transaction into the blockchain. So how is digital currency created? As we discussed earlier, digital currencies are not issued by a central bank or government, but they're instead created through that competitive process called mining. Mining is the process of using computing power to process transactions and secure the network against threats and reversal. Individual systems connected to the network are called nodes, and nodes on the network are continually competing to find the solution to complex mathematical problems in order to verify transactions. When a node finds the solution to one of these problems and a transaction is verified and added to the blockchain, the node that found the answer is awarded coins for their work. The math problems being solved are related to the encryption we talked about earlier, and The main purpose of the math problem is to make sure everyone's record of the transactions are the same. This is to say that the coins are created as a reward for processing and verifying transactions. There's a simultaneous benefit to mining in that it also secures the network against fraud and malicious activity. One of the other fundamental differences between fiat currency and digital currencies like Bitcoin or Leocoin is that digital currencies have a finite number of coins in their system. The number of coins in the system is defined at the creation of the digital currency, and the number of available coins cannot be changed. Fiat currency is different. In the case of currency that is issued by a government or central bank, if there's a need for more of it, they can just call up their local mint and have some made. This is one of the main causes of inflation and deflation in traditional economies. Digital currencies such as Bitcoin will run out of coins much sooner, and it's estimated that Bitcoin will actually run out of coins sometime around 2140. Once all the money in the system is created and there's no new funds will be created, the only way to be rewarded for processing transactions will be through a transaction fee added on to every transaction.